Hi, my name is Mary Beth LaRose, and I teach children's art classes at the Dare County Art Council. Thank you for joining us for our Facebook art party today. We're going to be painting these jellyfish that you see on the paper, and I'm going to go over the materials that you're going to need. Please be sure to check out our schedule for classes at the Dare County Art Council website at www.darearts.org. If you go under Gallery Workshops, you'll see a listing of classes. I'll also be offering these free Facebook art parties every month, so I hope you will check back and join us. And there will be some new programs starting up in the fall, so I hope you will check us out. All right, so today we're going to need 9 by 12 white paper, and it needs to be fairly heavyweight paper to support the watercolor. You're also going to need a cup of water. You're going to need a paper towel. You're going to need some salt, and I have a combination of kosher salt and I also have regular table salt. You're going to need 2 paintbrushes, a medium and a large. You're also going to need a toothbrush, some crayons. I really like this brand of Crayola crayons called construction paper crayons, but you can just use regular crayons. And you're going to also need watercolor paints. So first thing we're going to talk about is the jellyfish, and it might be a really good idea to go online and look at some pictures of some different kinds of jellyfish just to give your kids some inspiration. All right, so I'm going to talk you through. I've already started to draw out one of my jellyfish, and whenever I'm starting to draw, I always sketch with my pencil. That means I do it lightly. That way if I need to erase, I can. So I'm going to talk you through this, and then I'm going to draw another one over here. So here's my jellyfish. So the first line that I started with is my arch right here, and it's kind of got a curve inside on each side. And then I did a curving line to connect. These are the inside parts of the jellyfish. And the first thing I did is I kind of drew this curving shape. It almost looks like an ice cream cone on the outside edge. And then I have 3 sections of these little squiggles, and I'll talk about what they look like in a few minutes, but you can see there's 3 sections. They're thicker towards the top of the jellyfish and skinnier as you get to the bottom. And then I connected a line in between them. Okay, I'm not going to add the long skinny lines right here yet. Some of them are going to be in white crayon. Whenever you draw with white crayon and you paint on top of it, the white shows up. It's called crayon resist. All right, so I'm going to turn my paper this way because I'm going to have a jellyfish on the right side, kind of going in this position. So the first thing I start with is my arch, just like that. And then I connect it on the bottom with a curving line. And then I'm going to draw that ice cream cone shape that I talked about earlier. And it's going to be a curving line. I'm going to have 3 sections. Now, these little pieces look like commas. Some of my commas point this way, and some of my commas point this way. And there's 3 sections, like I said before. And it's okay if they start to run into each other. All right, and then I'm going to bring this line in between those sections and kind of curve it out. All right, so up here at the top, I want to show you something. Up here at the top of this one, I did a half circle and I did a curving line. I'm going to do it a little differently this time. I am going to do a half circle, but instead of doing a curving line, I'm going to make it kind of go in and out, kind of like a starburst or a sun shape. And when you look at different jellyfish online, you're going to see different patterns. All right, so the next thing I want to show you is the seaweed. So we're going to have some seaweed flowing. Remember, seaweed's very curvy, so you want to draw different, short, medium, long lines. just like that. Okay, so now we're ready to use our crayon. And when we use our crayon, we're going to press down a little bit so that we are going to be able to show some resist. Crayons are made of wax, and we've talked about this before on some of my art parties. When you paint on top of crayon, the wax from the crayon will pop out, but you have to press down a little bit when you do that, okay? The white is tricky because it's hard to see white on white paper, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. So on this jellyfish right here, I use blues and purples and pinks, kind of a pinkish red. This is a reddish orange color as well. And you can do whatever color scheme you want. Just be creative and, you know, think about what you would like. All right, so I'm going to start with a blue crayon. And again, I'm just going over my lines. And I'm only going to pick some of my shapes to color in. I'm going to be painting inside with my paint, so I don't really need to color in completely. I can color in some shapes and leave some shapes not covered up, so that's completely up to you. Just keep in mind you're going to be using paint in a few minutes. All right, I'm going to be using some white now. And I'm going to actually go next to the red line that I just did. And then I'm going to draw some curving lines. I know it's hard for you to see. You kind of see it a little bit in the light. They curve left on this side, they curve right on this side. And what those lines do is it gives them the impression that the jellyfish is not flat, but it has shape and form. I'm also going to do some little dotted lines in between. All right, and these shapes that are inside, first I'm going to kind of go around my outline. Then I'm going to go over my commas that we talked about. Remember, I'm pressing down a little bit with my crayon. All right, so I'm going to use my white crayon for some of these squiggle lines. And let me show you this jellyfish again. So if you look at the jellyfish, these are the lines that I'm talking about right here, okay? So I'm going to do little squiggles, first in white, then in color. Some are short, some are medium, some are long. And if you've ever been swimming in the ocean and got stung by jellyfish, these are usually the pieces that sting you. They have the venom in them. Just adding a little bit more color. Okay, so once you've done that, I've done my one jellyfish here. So I'm going to go over my second jellyfish. And if you want to have more than 2 jellyfish, you can. Okay, so I'm just adding some of my crayon. Be creative with your color choices. Going over the outline. Pressing down a little bit. Okay, remember we're not coloring in, we're just outlining. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to go over my seaweed. And I'm going to use a combination of 2 different colored greens. And another thing you can do with your white crayon is show some bubbles. And I know that's hard to see, but I'm just doing like little bubbles. All right, I'm going to come back and do some of my squiggles. Okay, so we're almost ready for paint. And I think I'm also going to do, I didn't do this on the first one, but I think I'm going to draw some lines in the water. Okay, just curving lines. Think about how the water moves. Okay, and I'm going to be painting in this direction, so that's why I kind of did those kinds. Don't do too many, just a little bit, okay? All right, so we're almost ready to paint. So what we're going to need is I'm going to use my little paintbrush first. I've got my paper towel handy right here. And I have my water cup and my salt right here. All right, so whenever we use watercolor, we wet our paintbrush first. Whenever you're wiping your cup, you wipe the inside edge. You don't tap like that. So wipe, pick your color. So I'm gonna pick kind of a purple color. And I'm just gonna paint my jellyfish. If the paint's not moving with your brush, try some more water. You can see some of the white crayon is showing up. All right, and I like to use a darker purple in combination with my light purple. And where the heavier crayon is, you're going to see some bubbling occur. All right, so I'm going over the center part underneath the jellyfish. All right, and then I'm going to go over this part. If you accidentally get a little too much paint somewhere and you want to lighten it up a little bit, you can use your paper towel. And that will lighten it up. Okay? I'm going to add a little bit more And then we're going to paint the second jellyfish. I like to dot it on and put lines on there. All right. All right, and again, if it's too dark, just blot it. Just like that. All right, so one thing I wanted to show you is while your paint is still drying, well, it's still a little bit wet, I'm going to take some pinches of salt, pinches, 2 fingers like that, and I'm going to sprinkle it on top. And then after it dries, it's going to give you kind of a speckled, you can see a lot of it right there. All right, so now I'm going to paint my background. And I'm going to use my bigger brush for that. Okay, I'm going to be using a couple different shades of blue, kind of a light blue and then a brighter blue. And I'm going at an angle. I'm using water first and then color. And I'm trying to kind of sweep it on top of the water. And look at how I'm doing it in a diagonal direction. Okay, be careful around your jellyfish. And if it does, the paint does go somewhere you don't want it to, use your paper towel and just blot it up. You can see I'm just going around my jellyfish. Going over my seaweed. Remember, water first, then color. All right, so now we're working on this side. You can see that crayon resisting the paint right there. Okay, so what you can do is once this is dried a little bit, you can take a toothbrush and you can splatter paint on top. And mine's a little wet right now, so I'm going to move that to the side and put my other one back in front of me. And I'm going to take my top off my cup. I'm going to take my toothbrush, dip it in the cup, and gently tap it. And then you're going to pick a color I actually use some white acrylic. You can use watercolor. I'm going to just squeeze out a little bit of white acrylic on my palette right there. And I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to hold it over my paper and I'm going to hold it above a little bit. And I want to show you this to the side. I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to go like that. And that makes it flicker on the paper. It's hard to see. You have to look. If I show it maybe a little closer, you can see it a little better. See those little specks? And it just gives it a nice little airy effect. But hold the brush down like this and take your thumb and rub it. And it just kind of gives it a really cool little effect. And if you want to use a different color, try it. It's a great little experiment. All right, so I hope you are enjoying the lesson for today. I enjoy being here with you and showing you another art lesson. I hope you will join us next month. Be sure to check the Dare County Art Council for updates on when our next art party will be. And I hope you are creating and having a lot of fun while we are having some time off. So, bye everybody. Thanks for joining me.